Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we have Monica Powell. Monica, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on. You're a regular member of the Party Corgi Discord, which is one of my favorite places in the whole world. You've been such a helpful voice there. I've read a ton of your articles on. Oh, are you okay?
Yeah, my webcam is
I actually
struggling.
thought you just fell out of your chair, which was I was like, oh my
Oh
god.
no. I'm like trying to figure out how to make it more firm. Um,
Okay.
I guess
Um,
I could just switch my camera. Let me
I think you
see.
I think you're good now, right?
Okay, I hope so.
All right.
Oh no. Okay, let me switch my camera
Okay. And while
to
you do that, I'm gonna just gush about you for a little bit. So yeah, Monica has been a just a prolific teacher, like tons of stuff on customizing GitHub profiles, getting involved with Gatsby. You're teaching a workshop on Gatsby at the Jamstack Conf next week, um,
yes.
and just all sorts of amazing things. So for those of us who are not familiar with your work, do you want to share a little bit about your background and what you're doing?
Yes. So I am a web developer. I've mostly worked within the React ecosystem. During normal times, I run a meetup React Ladies for women and non-binary React developers in New York. And like Jason mentioned, I become more active within the party working community. I recently, I guess now in 2020 times, it wasn't so recent, but in like March, maybe March or April, I found out about the Party Warrior community actually through Jason's website, and joined it, and have been having fun being able to connect with other content creators, especially people who are also in the web development space. And then I recently started working at Newzella as a software engineer building educational technology. So that's a bit about me.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so cool to see how just like like the meetups that are happening and the educational stuff that's happening. It's really cool to see how that's moving online. Like, I wish it was under better circumstances. But
Definitely.
kind of seeing how people are adapting and building online communities when there's not an option to have an in-person community has been really cool. And I feel like Party Corgi is such a great example of that, of creating a community that we want to have, not the kind of stress. I feel like a lot of online communities are stressful because you don't know if what you say is going to get taken the right way, or if somebody's going to
Mm-hmm.
come after you and like, well, actually you, or for something. And one of the things that I love so much about Party Corgi is that we've done a good job there of building a community full of people who are just like supportive and caring, and we like hold each other to a standard, but not in a sense that's like, I'm going to show you how smart I am, and it makes me so
Mm-hmm.
happy.
Yeah.
um but anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's we'll drop a link, I think, so that people can join if they want. What is it? It's Discord. There it is. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a link to join us in the Discord if you want. So that's not what we're talking about today. We wanted to talk about Webmention. And so Webmention is one of those things that I've heard the name and I've
Mm-hmm.
seen it around, but I'm not like super familiar with it. So could you kind of give an overview of what it is?
Yes. So I would say like on a high level, web mentions are kind of like having a commenting system where you can aggregate comments from across the web. So if you have a blog, you can use web mentions so that if someone is tweeting about your blog post or sharing it on GitHub or Reddit, like you can actually aggregate all of those comments in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of that, or I guess all of it, is powered by within the indie web, there's specific specifications as to how does a website accept web mentions? How can you send web mentions to a website? So it's a matter of like actually following those specifications and then being able to get all of the information centralized in one place.
Cool, very cool. And so the way that we're going to do that today is we're going to build a next site, and then we're going to set up web mention on that. So
Mm-hmm.
what's, I guess, like what has you excited about Next as a platform? Like what makes you want to choose that as a way to start?
Mhm. So I would say, like, a lot of the work that I have done, I guess, within React has actually been like within Gatsby or different like custom server side rendered React frameworks. So I'm really excited about Next because a lot of, I guess, business problems that different companies may have in terms of being able to render websites fast and have more flexibility in terms of how it works in terms of server-side rendering. Next seems to
Hmm.
be a great solution. They have a conference coming up in a few weeks. And something cool that they did is as soon as you registered, you can like authenticate with your GitHub, and then you get like a ticket, and you can, if
Oh
you
yeah.
share a link to tell your friends to sign up for the conference, they'll see like your face in the metadata and your
Cool.
ticket number, which I thought was like a really cool use of how they can do like on demand static generation. So those are like some of the things that I'm excited about with Next. That it just seems to have more flexibility on the server side for React
Nice.
development.
Cool. Okay. Well, so with that being said, I'm excited to get right into it. So let's switch over into pairing mode. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to zoom out a little bit so I'm not quite such a giant floating head right now. And let's talk about, first of all, let's get you to, like, everybody go follow Monica, like, right now. Waterproof Heart on Twitter. And let's do a quick shout out to our sponsors. The show today is being live captioned by White Coat Captioning. We've got Mike in the call with us doing this, so thank you so much, Mike. This is made possible through the generous contributions of Netlify, Fauna, Sanity, and Auth0, who all kick in to make this show more accessible to more people in the development community, which warms my heart, and I'm really, really grateful to be in a position where someone's willing to sponsor the show. So make sure if you want to see those captions, you can see them at lwj.dev/live. With that, we are going to be working with Webmention. So here's the Webmention site, webmention.io. But I guess maybe before we get to Webmention, maybe we should just build a site that we can use.
That
Do you
sounds good.
do you have a particular site that, like a starter that I should use, or do you want to just kind of let it rip from scratch?
Maybe if we could find a Next starter that has a blog component. I'm not sure. For like MD Next, I'm not sure if they have like a blog version. But yeah, I would just say like something with a blog would be most suitable for Webmention. You can do it even if you have like
Oh, look, Cassidy
one
built one for
page,
us.
but
Maybe we can just use this one because Cassidy has it
mhm.
already set up. It looks like it's got a few posts in it. Perfect. All right, so
Okay.
we'll use this one from Cassidy because I've seen this one before and I know it works. Actually, let's look at the demo and just make sure that this is what we want.
Okay.
Um,
Let's see.
does this look? And we'll be
Yeah,
able to kind of add the web mentions down here.
yes. I guess the only thing, yeah, actually, no, that should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be good.
Cool. All right, so let's do that then. I'm going to just going to use this handy dandy deploy to Netlify button. So I'm going to connect to my GitHub. Probably going to need to do this off screen. All right. And okay. I thought I was logged in on this browser, but alas. Let's see. Oh, come on. All right, let me grab my phone. And GitHub is where? Cool. So this should kind of auto deploy for us. It's going to create a new repo that we can grab. And that repo is here. So that is the clone of the repo. And the reason that there's nothing in it just yet is that it's going to build first, and then it'll kind of push everything, which is kind of a, it is what it is. It confused me the first time that it happened, but it makes sense. Kind of, you don't want to push junk and then have a bunch of failed builds, so it just kind of runs through the whole process first.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what the order of operations was for like when you press the deploy to nullify button.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure like what the exact order of operations is, but as far as I can tell, it like grabs the code from the repo that you're starting from and starts a build, and it then creates an empty repo, and then once the build finishes, it puts all the code there.
Okay.
Let's see. So here's our site. Our site worked. So we can go look at this. Here it is. All good. And if we refresh the page here, here's all of our code, which means that out here, I can git clone this repo, and then we'll get into it. And now we should have all of our code, so we can add the Webmention stuff to this. Nice. And let me just npm install so that we'll have all that ready when it's time. Okay, so we have a basic blog. What would you like to do next?
So one of the first steps, if you're adding Webmentions for like Webmention.io, you have to claim your website in a sense and set it up so that it can actually accept, so that they can actually accept Webmentions on your behalf. So we should update the markup for the website so that Webmention recognizes it. So one of the ways that it does that is you can add a rel tag or attribute to your HTML for like a Twitter link. So you would want to have some type of link on the website that's linking to whatever Twitter account you want to use to actually fetch or pull in the Webmentions.
Okay.
So let me find, I guess, an example. I think this was from their documents. This is a random person's.
So on the webmention.io, it looks like they've got a couple link tags that we can use.
Yes. So those links that are right there, you actually will use after you officially create your Webmention account.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, you could probably guess the username. Like on there, they're saying that it's most likely your domain. But they don't actually create the username until after you update your website with the markup and then log in. And then once you log in, then you would technically have a username assigned to you, but it should be the domain name.
Okay. And all right. So.
And yeah, somewhere on the website and maybe like on the homepage you want to have like some type of a link to your website or to your Twitter with that rel attribute, which is what I had said earlier, which is needed for it to recognize you as the owner.
Okay. And it doesn't need any like metadata. It can just be like any link to the.
So I think that the link should be to your Twitter account that is going to have a link back to your website. So there kind of has to be like a two-way opt-in.
Got it. Oh, okay. So it looks like here the way he's doing it is he's got a link to his Twitter with a rel of me. Is the rel me part of it?
Yes. You need that rel me. And the more like providers you have, I guess, the more that are going to be able to interact with Webmentions. I've just started with like Twitter just because that's I think the easiest to get engagement on. But there's other options as well.
Okay. So then I guess what I can do here is I can have a, we'll just put a link to Twitter and we'll put a rel of me and we'll say Twitter. And then if I run this, then hopefully it's just going to work first try. No changes required.
Hopefully. I don't know if we want to add in that. Well, do we? I guess we don't know the domain name yet.
We do know the, well, oh, you mean the Webmention one?
Yeah, or yeah, like what's the when we push it,
Uh-huh.
or like publish this code, like what domain is it gonna live on?
It's going to live on Next Netlify blog, or sorry, that's not it. It's this one. Next Netlify Webmention.netlify.app is the,
Okay.
I updated the site name so that it would be something human readable.
Okay. So I don't know if we want to like preemptively set that as a username or if we want to wait. Um,
Let's do it one step at a time, just so that we can see all the dots connect here, because I'm
mhm,
still trying to get my head around exactly how all this works. So I'm currently saying that I own my Twitter, and I'm doing
mhm.
that by let me dock this again, because that's, here we go. So I'm gonna click here, and we can see that I've added the rel me
Yeah.
to specify
Hmm.
that I own it.
Hmm.
So then when I publish this, when I tell Webmention to look at my site, it's going to know that like I've said my Twitter account is who I am. Like I'm basically
Yeah.
providing identity
Hmm.
by publishing code.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's get that published.
Hmm.
We'll say feature, add Twitter link, and we can push that up. And then I'm going to use the Netlify CLI to open the dashboard. Oh, I'm
Okay.
not. Let me link it. Use the get remote origin. So it just found the site there. So now I can open it.
Okay.
Oh no. Okay, whatever. We already had it open. So if I look at my deploys, the site is building.
Hmm.
And I should probably add, this isn't an episode about like optimizing Next build times, but we do have a Netlify or like a cache plugin for Next that'll make that faster. But it's still pretty quick because it's a nice small site. So we've got a Twitter link now.
Okay. Yes. Nice. So now I would try to log into Webmention. So it's going to prompt you
Oh,
to
cool. Okay.
authenticate with your Twitter account. Well, first you put in the domain name.
Okay. And this, okay, so this is Twitter. Probably remember me on this browser. Oh, cool. Okay. So I need to link to this in my Twitter profile.
Yes. So that's what I was talking about earlier about there being like this double opt-in. So like on your website, you recognize that that Twitter profile is associated with you, but then the Twitter profile also has to associate itself with the website.
Got it. Okay. So if I edit my profile and I change my website
Hmm.
and then I go back here and we're going to put this one back in. Go to Twitter, come back.
Hmm.
Hey, hey, look at that.
Nice, nice.
Okay. So I'm logged in.
Hmm.
Oh, do I need to go back to Webmention then?
Yeah, I would go to webmention.io. And then yeah. I don't it redirects there for some reason. Interesting. Okay. It's in beta. Okay, so now we have the
Nice.
username. So adding this to the head of the website should allow us to start accepting web mentions and pingbacks. I actually haven't really used pingbacks, but
Okay.
the markup for both of them is there.
All right. So let's go in and we'll add this. Where
Um,
does, okay, so here's
yeah,
the
is there
head.
like Okay, yeah. I was wondering if there was like an SEO component, but that works.
So we'll just drop these right in and then,
Mm-hmm.
oops. Oh no, here. All right. So we've got our components. So I'm going to git add everything, and then we'll commit and say feature add web mention meta tags,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll get that pushed up. Okay. And so that's going to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And so, so what we're doing here, if I can repeat this back and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is what we've just done is we've asserted ownership over our website by linking to a Twitter profile that we own.
Yeah.
And we've asserted ownership over Twitter by linking to it from the domain. So it's
Mm-hmm.
basically, without having to do authentication, we can prove that we own both things by editing both of them to point at each other.
Yes.
That is really clever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like when I was first starting with Webmentions, I didn't like read the instructions. So it took me a while to like figure that out. But yeah, once I like understood it, it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is really interesting. So then what that means is that, theoretically speaking, now if someone links to one of these posts on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
Webmention will pick that up. Or do we have to do
Um,
something else?
so there's another step.
Okay.
So this is on the indie web. So things are kind of, I would say, a little like spread out.
Okay.
There's another website called Bridgie that will let you actually collect the web mentions from different social media websites. So with webmention.io, you're getting a URL that you can send like web mentions to.
Okay.
But in order, like Twitter isn't going to send web mentions to your website for like automatically. So Bridgie will allow you to automatically like send on a schedule web mentions from another website over to your web mention URL. If someone had like a
Oh,
website where they are sending web mentions, they could send it directly to your URL without having to go through Bridgie. But in order to like coerce like these different social media things into web mention, you have to use Bridgie.
and so yeah, so Bridgie is basically hooking into these APIs to just relay stuff over.
Yeah, my understanding from Bridgie is that they like they'll do like a fetch like after I don't know 15 minutes or however long of Twitter and search for your domain. And then if
Gotcha.
they find anything, then they'll send it over to your web mention URL.
Oh, okay. That's very cool. Okay. So then it looks like here I just click Twitter, and I guess
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens when I do that. It can see tweets from my timeline, see Twitter profile information, see accounts. Okay, that all seems to make sense. My website is this one. I didn't get the. Okay, cool. What do you mean it doesn't look like my website?
No. Okay, I wonder why. Does it have any more information?
Maybe I
Hmm.
needed to do a thing first.
Hmm. Should we check to make sure that, well, I don't think that the markup we just added should make a difference. So I don't know if we should check to make sure that markup was added to the head of the website, but it should have deployed. Um,
I guess we can. Yeah, I guess we can figure it out pretty quick, right? So we can go here, look at the head. So here is our link.
mm-hmm.
Do we have to connect Webmention to Bridgie?
I believe it should just be through your Twitter. Hmm.
And that link is set up.
Let me see. They have a help page.
Let's see. Let's see here. Back, can't find.
Because it was saying that it didn't think that was your website.
Yeah. Where do you say? No. Mm-hmm.
So is it now?
Listening for responses, but listening for responses from where?
Um, so I believe that would be from Twitter. So whenever, I guess whenever you get a mention, it would show up here. And then also if someone actually uses the website on Twitter, then that would also show up here. Something that I've done in the past, is you can manually they had an option where you can manually resend a tweet, if you want to like test that it's actually showing up on Webmention.
I'm still so confused by why this doesn't see this post. Like it's definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
And our header still has, yeah, it still has the link. So what do you want?
Because how did you get to the other page where the other page made it seem like you were able to log in successfully?
Yeah, right. And so it shows me that I'm set up here. So let's go to the dashboard.
So this is where if you started getting web mentions from Bridget, they should show up here.
So I guess we could just try to send one of these and see what happens.
Yes.
Okay, let's just try it. Let's open Postman and see if we can send a web mention.
Okay. Yeah, so like getting web mentions from Bridget is one way to get them, if you want to pull in from social media. But if you but anyone can send a web mention if they know the URL.
Cool. Okay, so sorry, I just realized that I had some stuff in there that I wasn't sure should be seen. So I'm just needed to clear that out real quick, and then let's go. We'll put this here, and we'll drop in a post like this. This is going to be JSON data, and then we need to post it to this one.
I'm not sure which.
Oh, using the API. So we don't want to get, we want to post a web mention.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sorting, paging, finding. Ping back. We don't want to ping back. Ruby 2.0 woes. Okay. So not 100% clear. It kind of seems like so that's read only, so that won't help. They can be queried. And add the following tags on any website to accept web mentions.
So we just want to be able to manually send a web mention.
Right. And to do that, maybe we can, this is a rabbit hole, right? Looking in their code, but maybe we can, no, that's not going to be it. How do you just send stuff? Maybe publish? Web mention. That seems like it might be worth looking at. Oh, there's a spec too that we might be able to use. So publish web mention. Let's look at the spec. We're going to figure this out. Feels it's always when you try to do something live, right, that you hit this.
I'm like, what is happening, Bridgie?
Publishing software. Manual, that's what we want. Whatever, that's probably easier. Oh geez, that one's a little bit rough. Oh, sending with curl, that's what we wanted. So find the target's web mention endpoint. This may be in the HTML with rel web mention. Okay, so I think that was right. So we're looking for rel web mention.
Yes.
All right, now we're going to send the source and the target to the endpoint. All right, we can do that. So we're going to send it here, and we're sending it as post. Data, yeah, we're sending it as post. And target and source.
So those are URLs?
Yeah, so this is, it's like source URL, target URL, and then the endpoint is the web mention URL. And so I think what that's going to mean in this case is source and target. So we might be able to actually get away from a lot of this and just use form data, and then we'll be able to do source and target. Okay, and so we can say that the target is this post, and the source will be, I don't know, we'll just make it my website and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Do we need to send anything else, or can we just like, let's see if it lets us?
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see what happens. I actually haven't done the manually sending request route. Someone asked if it's possible it has to be HTTP instead of HTTPS.
Oh, that would be wild. I would be very concerned if that was the case, but it's certainly possible. Let's see. On my dashboard, did I get anything?
Okay, so Webmention was queued for processing.
Yeah, right. Like it makes it seem like it worked. The location, I probably don't need to actually follow that. I can probably link to it here. Invalid content. Okay, but that's fine. Like at least it got here, right? So that seems reasonable. Did not return a recognized content type. Okay, that's fair. But so I wonder, is this like a caching issue? Like maybe it just needed some time. Let's try it with just HTTP and see what happens.
Okay.
I wish it would tell me what it meant. Like, why doesn't it look like my website? What do I need to add?
Well, I think there's I guess two different. Bridgie is saying that it doesn't seem like your website. Webmention agrees that it's your website.
Mm-hmm. And there's no like,
Um,
head to the front page to sign up. Okay. How does it work? Check social networks. Thank you for the sub, Jordan. Good to see you. So micro formats, open source. Okay, but how?
um, oh, interesting. Someone else recommended maybe checking to see like for if there's more information in the
Oh,
console.
that's a good idea. Let's find out. So I'm gonna go to Bridgie. I'm gonna try to connect this thing. I'm authorizing Twitter. And I'm going to paste this in and let's open up the network tab
Mm-hmm.
and let's see what happens. Oh, it's filtered down. What, did anything happen?
Hmm.
Oh, I need to preserve log. Yep. Okay, let's try that again.
Okay.
And we got to
I always say it's 200.
I'm just trying to figure out even what so that's a document redirect. I think this might be a server side thing. I don't know that it's going to give us anything on the client side.
Okay. Um, hmm. Should we try without any HTTP? Well, an example had HTTP, so I guess it doesn't matter. Like putting the protocol should be fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, do my posts really need to link to my website? Your social network profile has a link to your website. URL and U syndication.
so maybe we need more markup. Although I don't.
Do you think it's like because I clearly had I must have like done part of a web mention setup at one point. Should I try? Maybe I'll try logging in with the like LWJ account or something.
Okay.
Let me just log out if I can figure out how to do that. All right, and then I'm gonna log in with a different
Okay.
user.
Okay.
Okay, and let's try editing this one. Okay. And then we'll go to Webmention.
Um,
And we need to change our
yeah, we need to change the web. Like right now, the website is still linking to the other Twitter account.
Okay, so we can
Although I don't know if that's gonna mess up our username now. But I
it
guess
shouldn't
we'll
mess up
find
the
out.
username, I hope. But I guess let's
yeah, we'll see once it's up, and then we can check the Webmention.io.
Oh, and then Linda says on Twitter it's showing the site without the HTTP or the ending slash.
So do we want to try again before
Yeah,
pushing any changes?
let's
Okay.
try one more time. So we'll put the site in, and I'm just gonna straight up leave that off. Let's see what happens. Please enter a URL. Does not look like your website.
Oh man,
Like,
Bridgie.
is it cached? Is something? I wish it would show me what it was looking for.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's log out here
Mm-hmm.
if I can, and then let's log back in.
Okay. And when we
And
log back
I'm
in, we're still not gonna see it because the markup hasn't been. Well, I don't know. It might work on the Bridgie inside, but then Webmention side, we will have to do some updates.
doesn't look like your website.
No.
What? Okay. What?
Well, I think
What?
well we still have the code pointing to the old Twitter account for in the code
Yeah.
because I don't think we pushed up the change. Um.
Oh, that's right. We didn't push the change. So let's fix switch Twitter accounts, and then we can push that. That should build hopefully really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Adding an Atom feed. Oh boy, I hope I don't have to add an Atom feed. That'll be a bummer.
Oh
Um,
gosh, I did not have to, I didn't do all of that when I don't know. But I do think like what I mentioned is kind of finicky. Like in terms of I guess you have to do things a very specific way. But yeah, I also don't know like if it doesn't like the dot app, but like they should be able to handle that.
it would it
Um
would be kind of wild if it couldn't handle a dot app, but well, maybe not. I don't know. Regular as Nikki said, like regular expressions are hard. So there is definitely a chance that there's just something going on here that isn't going to work. But let's
mhm.
try this one more time. Oh, okay. What if we let's see. I mean, I guess maybe we could try a different site, because this one is a .com. It's got a blog.
Mhm. Mhm.
I might even have. Let's look. I may have already done some of this. So let's see. Did I add Webmention stuff in here? I don't see any.
Can we search I guess about the me thing or web mention
Yeah,
in
let's
case there is something in there?
see. I don't see anything
Oh.
in there. Doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't get added on the fly.
Uh-huh.
So I guess we can I search in here if I edit as HTML? Like, okay, so we don't have any Webmention stuff in the
Mm-hmm.
source for this site. So that might not be. This site takes way too long to build. Um,
Okay.
sheesh. Okay, so maybe. Well, so we've got Webmentions, right? So we've got Webmentions
Mm-hmm.
working, in the sense that
Yes.
we're able to at least send them. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have the right format for them. We got to add some extra stuff, but
Yeah.
in the sense that we are able to at least like hit this and it gets accepted and Webmention recognizes that it was a post,
Mm-hmm.
that part works.
Yeah.
So the part that we're missing is the part that syndicates Twitter over. And I'm wondering if
Yes.
maybe there's a service other than Bridgie that might work.
I mean, we can look. I think Bridget is the only one that I've come across, but there potentially could be like something, an alternative. Um,
Yeah, let's see if we can find. I feel like I saw a list that had Bridgie in it. If a URL is present at the source, yeah, but that part's not really necessary. So they're sending stuff. These are all examples, right?
mm,
Okay, so we don't need a bunch of examples. Publishing software. What about some of these?
okay.
Any of you work with Twitter? Bridgie Publish.
Hmm.
None of the other ones show up for Twitter.
Oh no.
Bridgie. Um, in the spec docs, yeah, I mean, so this is the part that's hard, right? Is like, are we going to reverse engineer Bridgie to figure out what it's looking for? Because I feel like what we're really missing here, like this is such a good case for why you need to write good error messages. Because if Bridgie told us
Hmm.
what it needed, we could go solve this problem. But because it just fails with a
Yes.
"we don't believe you," it's like, all right, but why?
Yeah, it would be helpful. Like, I know before we had gotten a more helpful error message from Webmention where it was like, oh, we see this domain, but we expected a different domain.
Yeah, right. That was
Um,
a perfect error message because it told us exactly what to do. And I feel like, yeah, that's exactly it. Error
yeah,
is
so I'm like,
erroneous.
um,
um,
yeah, I'm not sure if there's like a caching issue, if something is missing. I had done like a basic test like run yesterday, and I didn't have to do all that much. So I'm not sure like why Bridgie is complaining.
okay, can you show me though, like what you think you see? Because that's the part that's bugging me. Is it doesn't show what the
Yeah.
hmm. Because we definitely
Hmm.
did that, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably getting, Twitter. Uh, yeah, so it gets Twitter shortened, and then they put this in there.
How interesting.
All right, let's try this. I'm gonna buy a domain name, and let's see if a .com works because it really could just be that
Oh
it's
gosh.
missing. Like it can't handle the .app. So let's add a domain. We'll go site settings, domain management. Let's get a custom domain, and we'll call this next Netlify webmention.com.
I really hope this works.
It is available. Okay, so it's gonna do domain stuff for us. This will take a minute because everything just has to get set up. Um, is this like things are timing out, or is this a things are waiting on DNS propagation? Verify. Okay. So now, theoretically speaking, we should be able to hit this domain.
Okay. And so do we know right now what Twitter account it's pointing at? Oh, it's still provisioning.
Yeah, we're still waiting on the certificate to finish. Come on. Don't you lie to me. You're right. So this is one of those things that like where you start to realize how many layers of things have to work for the internet to be functional. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, so you're buying a domain name, but the domain name needs a certificate. The certificate comes from Let's Encrypt. The domain name comes from Netlify's domain partner.
Mm-hmm.
Netlify is trying to read all of that. On top of that, you've got the local name servers. You've got the internet like DNS registry, and then you've got all the various caching layers in between. And it's like, something's gonna break. Oh no, Webmention app. How to? Uh-oh, we might have like
So,
Netlify specific problems. Let's find out.
well, when I was looking at this document, I think that it's just like saying if you want Netlify to rebuild your website whenever you get a new web mention, which is
Oh,
something that I previously had on my website, but then I started to get too many web mentions, so I was like burning through my build minutes.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, you can have it like set up a webhook from Netlify so that it always knows like whenever you have a new web mention.
Got it.
Um,
Okay.
but I think, well, they're saying Webmention app is different than Webmention IO. But Webmention IO does have something similar in terms of being able to send the how it being able to accept like webhooks and triggering them when new information comes in.
Okay, so I have updated it to the insecure site because who cares? And what I'm going to try to do here is come back. We're authorizing the site,
Okay.
and it's working.
Okay. Okay. So it does not
So
seem
it's
to like
.app.
buy apps.
Okay, that's fine. I mean that's totally fine. So it would be really really helpful if they told us like what the error was, but that does make sense. And so what that means then is that if we tweet about this, so if we take one of these and we say, let's go to which one am I logged in on? We'll go here and we'll say, hey, what a great post.
Okay.
And if anybody else wants to post about this site, no, oh shit. Okay, all right. So we're gonna delete that. I use the dot app. Okay, so let's go to the .com. Where is the .com? Here's our .com. I'm gonna go to the blog,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna click on one of these. There it is. We've got a post. Oh, and our certificate works now. So it just needed a minute.
All right.
Um,
Okay.
so now I can go to Twitter. All right, and I'm gonna tweet. And so what should happen then is Bridgie should find that post.
Yeah. So Bridgie like I guess checks every now and then. But you can either pull or crawl it now if you want it to come to happen faster. Um, so although I don't really remember what the difference is between the polling and the crawling. Um, I guess I don't know if we also want to crawl it. Oh, it's crawling it now. Okay. And you can also, yeah, manually. Oh, that's the website URL. You would want to send the actual tweet.
Oh, I got it. Okay, so I'll
So
send this.
that will make it so that it will like pull in the web mentions for old tweets. So something that I did when I first set mine up was like polling some of my more popular, like whatever I could find in my articles, like pulling that to kind of backfill the web mentions. And then if you look in the right-hand corner, it's saying that it sent the web mention to, oh,
Mm.
interesting. Oh, it sent them to learn with JSON. That's not what I would have expected.
So this is, I think, when I was trying to do something a while back, it looks like it was
Okay.
hooked up for learnwithjason.dev, but this is the new one, and it
Mm-hmm.
currently does not show as being sent. So
Okay.
looks like it found this, but hasn't sent it yet. And if we come back over here, oh, look at this.
Okay, so we have a web mention. So that interesting. But that's from oh, I think this is probably from the API. Like when we did the curl thing, is that the request that you sent?
I bet this is a pingback.
Oh, interesting.
Look at that.
So
Very,
yeah,
very
so it's
cool.
able to pull it in from. It looks like maybe their Twitter is then going to their website, and
I
then it pulled it in from the website because it's sending the web mentions.
Yeah. So I bet what happened is that because Sebastian has Webmention set up, I bet because he linked, it sent the ping back. So I bet this is the ping back thing
Mm,
that we set up with like the XML RPC, which
yes,
would be, where was that?
it was somewhere in the
Uh,
top. Yes.
this one. So I
Hmm.
bet because he published that, it hit this URL, and now we've got this kind of like that's really cool. I love that that just worked, right? And so,
Unlike other things.
cool. Yeah. Okay. So
uh,
cool. Look, and then there's more mentions here. Nope. This is the web mention. Okay.
this is
So
also interesting. It has a .com and the .app.
oh the dot
And what
oh
we're
so the
still
dot app worked the whole time.
for a web mention, but not for Bridgie.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. And so if anybody else tweets about this, hopefully it'll show up. It looks like right now this isn't sending. Maybe
Hmm.
is publishing the thing that we need? Or wait, I don't
I
want it to
don't think
publish.
so. Yeah, I wouldn't. Um, should I tweet something? Did people tweet?
I'm not sure if anybody tweeted, but we can. I mean, we can start with this, right? So if I want to bring this into my site, then it
Hmm.
looked like there was a feed, right? So I can just grab something like this.
Um, yeah, so there's a feed. If you scroll down, there's also like a URL. It has JF2 in it. Um,
Uh,
is it on there?
do I need
Oh
to use
wait,
a different?
oh wait, no, I think it's when you're not logged in, it has this documentation, which is annoying. I don't know how you get to it if you're logged in. Um, but yeah, so there's a feed, but there's also a way to get back JSON.
Wonder if I just tell it
Um,
like, what is it? Accept application JSON. Be cool if they just like let you specify.
I can send you mine. It's basically your domain name and then the token, which the token on the webpage, if you look, it's not a secret. You can make it a secret if you want, but it's basically like someone, if they have it, they'll be able to read your web mentions, but they won't be able to like delete anything. Um,
Okay,
but yeah, the
so
structure is, I
domain
guess, your
is there.
username.
So I just grab out like this part.
Uh, which,
So
yeah.
yeah, just like the
Mhm.
regular domain name. So let's drop this in,
And then the
and
token would be different, specific to you.
okay, so I'll grab that out of the web mention page, just here, and this is a read-only token.
Yes. And then on that page, it also has a disclaimer about how it's like not really a secret. So that will get you back the JSON
Cool.
representation of your web mention.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is what, in order to like actually render the information, we will want to make a request to this URL
Okay.
and then figure out what type of content we want to display. So there's like different types of web mentions. I guess if it comes from a website or if someone likes a tweet versus retweets a tweet, those are like different things or
Okay.
different types.
And so for now, we could do something like, and the only thing that's been linked so far is the homepage, I believe. Or I guess we can try. Does it split by path name or anything?
Um, I would
Mention of.
assume it'd be by the target, but I guess we kind of need maybe more examples. I know like when I've used it in the past, I've been able to search by like the path, but I'm not sure of the exact
Okay.
markup breakdown.
Yeah, and that looks right because this is what got mentioned, and so this was the target. So I assume if someone mentions the blog, and so yeah, Nikki, in this case, the it's going to be a static site. We're just exporting, but like we could make this. We could use the Next has all sorts of stuff. The incremental static rendering. We could use a serverless function. We could use since it's a read-only key, we could use just an async call to like load these on the fly, right? Like they're kind of whatever we want to do.
Yes. So if we only do them like on the server side when we build the application, then he's right that you would have to rebuild the website in order to fetch the latest web mentions. But something that some people do is fetch them on the client side or refetch them on the client side. So that way we will hydrate any new web mentions. I actually still need to add client side web mentions to my website. I have server side. And mine are kind of stale because I like got to the point where I'm like, I can't rebuild my website every time I get a
Yeah.
web mention. But yeah, that decision affects how like fresh the content is.
Yeah, Tent Man, we could absolutely like so like a thing that we could do if we wanted is we could like use effect. I guess I need to import that from React, and then we'll be able to in here we can like fetch this, and then what we get back we can say then response response.json, and then down here we should get our result, and for now we can just like console log it. So this if we run this, what we should see in the console is that same output that I just got from Postman, where we got this type feed children. So let's take a look at it. And here we go. So now on the client side, we get our web mentions, right?
Yeah, so they all are in the children array. Although I only see one. Oh no! Oh, I guess we have one.
Yeah, so
because one was .app and one was .com.
Exactly. So it look. I think I'm not sure if Bridgie is being slow or if it's just kind of like skipping this one because it's from my own account. Well, maybe if I tweet about it from like my personal account. Let me try that. Let's see if it works. So I'm gonna tweet about this from Jay Langsdorff, which I'll pull over from here. Let's go.
Okay.
All right. So that's a thing. And maybe Bridgie will catch it.
Okay. But hopefully, I mean, that's how Bridgie's supposed to work, but Bridgie seems to be in a mood today.
Whoa, what just happened?
Did you get send out a tweet? Oh, yeah. It sent. Oh wait, it sent some. Look,
yeah, this is
delayed 19 seconds ago, but yeah, okay. So we should expect now in Webmention, that we can see activity.
Okay.
And you'll also notice here you can like delete specific web mentions. So if you don't want that data to be returned from Webmention.io, that will like completely remove it. And they also have the ability for you to block like certain domains. And my understanding is Bridgie would like, because it's operating in the context of you as a user, like if you block somebody, it should not pick up their tweet if they mention your website. So those are like some of the features that they have in order for you to like edit what things are being displayed.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy. It just found like all this stuff for the older, for the other domain, which is fine because that's what we wanted. But yeah, here we go. So yeah, some Bridgie stuff coming through. And so now if we go back to our dev site, which was where? Uh-oh. This one? Here. Then we'll get an array. We get 5 different things back now. And here, look, here's all of our tweets. Here's a tweet from you, a tweet from Linda, a tweet from Bo News. Hope I didn't just destroy your name. I apologize. But yeah, look at this. This is really cool. So now we have like the content of it as well. Mm-hmm. So we can like pull these in.
Yeah, oh, that's cool. And you'll see like it has this WM property, so it's saying that was like a mention of. There's like different like I think there's one for like likes, retweets. I don't know what they call them, but you can also like filter by type of web mention.
And it comes with an avatar too. So like, how cool is that? Mm-hmm. So now we can do something like get their name, a link to their Twitter account, their avatar, all pulled in.
Mm-hmm.
That's really slick. Like this is really nice. So it's a mention. And so, okay, so this is a mention. And then the other ones show up as, I guess we don't really have any.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I liked one of them. I'm not sure if that would show up as a different type than me replying. Oh
boy, got all sorts of stuff coming in.
Yeah, I can get
it's okay, how about we just get rid of that? There we go. Cool. No side project targets. It's fine. I mean, like, so basically, if we were paying, like, if we had more information, we would also see likes and retweets and stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, there's like different types. So like, for the WM property, I'm looking at like some of my code where I have like in-reply-2. Is if someone replies to a tweet? The mention of we've already seen. I think there's also one for likes. Like, oh yeah, there's like dash of. There should be somewhere where you can find like a specification of all of the, I guess, different types that could potentially be returned.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least from like Twitter. And Tempman asked if there's a standard layout for displaying this information. I think there's not necessarily. A lot of times I think people do try to display like the person's name, the actual body of the content, or at least some excerpt of the content. I think it's helpful to share like a link back to the original so that like it adds, I guess, some authority as to like this person actually said this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice like pulling in people's photos so that way it seems more personal than just a wall of text.
So like we can basically do this now where we like, let's do mentions and set mentions, and we can make that into a use state, and we'll just start with an empty array. So we'll also pull in use state here. And then instead of console logging the result, we'll set mentions. And there was a children prop, right? So I'm just going to grab that children prop. so that we get the array straight up.
Nice.
And then underneath the page here, let's just add a div, and then we can say mentions map. That'll give us a mention each, and we can do like, let's do a div. And so you were saying that you like to show their avatar. So let's throw in, I need to pull this side by side so that we can actually see what's in the data. Let's
that'll be helpful.
Pull this up. So we're going to get an author and content, and those are going to be the pieces that are most interesting to us. So let's grab.
So we want to show the author photo.
Author URL for the link. And then we'll set an image of the source will be mention author photo, and set an alt of mention author name. And then we can do, okay, this is probably not a great idea, but why don't we just show the tweet?
Yeah, I've seen like people who they sanitize whatever this information is that's coming in. But if you look at the content, there's also, you can return either the HTML or the text. So there's some options as to how you actually render that.
Look at that.
Oh, nice. Yay, we have Webmentions.
We've got Webmentions. And like, this is so slick, you know, because now with just a little bit of effort, right? We can do like a style, and we'll say display grid, and then we can do like grid template columns. We'll say 100 pixels, 1 FR, and then down. Actually, that might be enough. Oh no, we need to make the image. We'll just make it with the 100. And like, that's, you know, that is not pretty by any, we can add a gap, I guess, so that it's not like horrible. But you know, this is a comment section in like 5 minutes, right? So that is, once we figured out that we needed a .com and not a .app.
Yes.
This went so fast.
Yeah.
And that, like, how cool is that this just works, right? And that we're now getting like live pull from Twitter on our site. And, you know, and this is client side. So it's like not, it's not getting server rendered. If somebody's running without JavaScript, they won't see these. But I don't know, how do you feel about that?
So, I mean, in my case, I want my site that I first started using Webmentions with is a Gatsby site. So I by default just did them like on the server side. I think it probably is nice to have something on initial hydration, even if someone doesn't have JavaScript enabled. But yeah, I mean, I could see kind of going like either way. I think the best case would probably be some combination where you like compile or gather the Webmentions at build time and then rehydrate it on client side. So if someone didn't have JavaScript enabled, they might not see the latest Webmention, but if they do, then they would be able to see the most recent activity. I think would probably be the optimal solution. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and like from my standpoint, I feel like with a lot of this stuff, you know, this falls under the category of progressive enhancement. It is nice to show this stuff, but it's not critical. Like unless the thing you're building is like, we need the tweets are part of the experience. They're like the whole core of it. Like you're running a TV show where like comments are kind of the part of the thing. It's not life or death, right? If my comments on my blog are a day or a week out of date, like, well, that's fine. People are looking at this stuff on Twitter. And so I feel pretty okay with this being something that only works client side. Mainly because the vast majority of people who are on Twitter probably are browsing with JavaScript enabled, and this stuff isn't going to get caught by ad blockers or anything. So they'll probably have a pretty good experience of using the site. And if they disable JavaScript, no worries. They'll still get to use the site. They just won't see the discussion. And that's, that's okay.
Yes.
Well, this is great. I mean, this is great. Like I had there was a moment where I was kind of like the dark night of the soul, thinking like, oh man, is Bridgie going to betray us like this? But we came back, we got it done. We're actually ahead of schedule here. Is there anything that you, anything else that you want to teach or anything else that you want to cover on this, on Webmention?
So there's not anything specifically that I want to, I guess, teach, but I think that like if you are interested in implementing Webmentions, something cool that we didn't have time to go over today is like actually sending those outgoing messages. So we saw that someone sent one from their website to our website, which is cool. So I think that's probably like a great like next step. Once someone has Webmentions set up, if they want to be like more integrated into the ecosystem of actually like sending out these things, not necessarily through Twitter, but like if you're blogging about something, being able to communicate with other websites, I think is like a fun next step.
Yeah. Okay. So Webmention development. What would be a good link for that, do you think, if we wanted to send this to someone? Maybe developer? Support cross-site comments. How to implement. Oh yeah, this is perfect. So we'll use this page as our reference. So make sure you go check that out. Yeah, Tentman mentioned in the comments, like you could set up a daily build situation. You totally could. You could use like GitHub Actions has a pretty friendly like cron interface. There are other kind of scheduled job kind of things that you can do through different services around the web. So you could rebuild once a day, once a week, once every 12 hours, like whatever, through one of those services. Like Zapier, I think, will even let you do that. And so that could be a way to do it. I think, like, from my standpoint, I think client side is probably where I would hang out, just because I don't really care. But I think that it's going to be kind of how important is this to you, and how critical is it to the building of your website. But yeah. All right. So Monica, where should people go if they want to go further with this? Like we looked at Webmention.
Yeah.
So I'll link to that again.
Yeah. So I have there was a link I wanted to share. So this developer, mxb.dev, they've written about how they implemented Webmentions in 11T. I found that like helpful to get more context. I know I don't have a link handy, but Swix has also written about using Webmentions. I would kind of recommend just Googling like Webmention and then whatever technology you're using. But the general, I guess, setup process is very similar across like different technologies. Like I use Gatsby, and there's actually a Gatsby plugin for some of the Webmention setup. So I found, for me, that plugin was like super helpful, but it's not really helpful if you're not using Gatsby. So those are, I guess, some of the things that I would recommend.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. So I am, yeah, very nice. Cool. So, and then I just, I found another one by Sia Carmalagos, who is a, she does a lot of stuff like this, and looks like she also did like a whole step-by-step how to get Webmentions into 11D as well. So that's all like really, really helpful information. This was so much fun. And I always do love a good adventure. I feel like this one was great because it felt like when you watch a trilogy and the second movie, like by the end of the second movie, you just feel like you've been like dragged through hell and you're tired and you just want to go home. That was the second act of our show today. It was like, oh God, this is not going to work. But we came through. We triumphed.
Bridgie is not having
it. Well, cool. So Monica, other than your Twitter, which everyone's going to go follow right now, where should people go if they want to keep up with you online?
So if you go to my website, monica.dev, I generally blog there. You can check out what my web mentions look like. My code isn't open source, but if you have any like questions about my implementation, I'm more than happy to share, as well as some of my articles. I don't think I have anything specific to Webmention, but they cover some of the things I've done on my website. I wrote an article this morning about like, please don't spam. Oh, but this one I just wrote this morning, so you can't see the web mentions.
Cool.
But if you go to like any other article, it should. Yeah, that's a good one. I would go to the bottom. You can see my web mentions.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, you'll see certain people's faces. I ended up cutting the array so that it's not showing 1,800 photos.
Yeah.
And if you click show mentions, it will actually show you the copy. I ended up collapsing that. Like as I started to get more mentions, I thought it was a better experience.
Oh yeah,
for users to
this
be
is
able
amazing. I love that this posted the rounds.
So yeah, that's where to find me.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
also in Party Corgi, someone shared that. That's another place I hang out on the web.
yeah, come hang out with us in Party Corgi. It is super fun. But yeah, so Monica, thank you again for hanging out with us today. We'll do one more quick shout out to the sponsors. We've got White Coat Captioning, who has been making this show more accessible by doing live captioning as we go at lwj.dev/live. That is made possible by our sponsors, Netlify, Fauna, Sanity, and Auth0, who all kicked in to make this show more accessible to more people. Thanks y'all so much for hanging out with us today. I think this is a good stopping point unless there's anything else you want to cover, Monica.
That's all. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone who tuned in and helped us debug through this problem.
Yes, thank you, chat, for sticking with us and all the great ideas. Really, really happy that we got this thing working. Really excited about the possibilities this unlocks. With that, I think we're going to call this one done. So make sure you go check out the schedule and take a look at what's coming up. We've got the Jamstack Conf is next week. So I'm not doing a Tuesday stream. I'll be at the Jamstack Conf instead. Come hang out with us there, though. That's going to be a good time. Jamstack Conf. I think it's jamstackconf.com. Oh, I hope I get that right. Yeah, so those tickets are free. You can come hang out with us. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And then on Thursday, I've got Ben Elegbodu coming on to teach us about React and TypeScript. And as someone who has regularly like pushed back on TypeScript, I'm really excited for this one to get convinced on why TypeScript is worth the investment. But definitely go check out that schedule. Come hang out with us. Chat, stay tuned. We are going to raid. Monica, thank you as so much for coming and hanging out. And we'll see you next time.